Martin was a thin, pale man when I saw him, of a sickly look and a constitution naturally feeble. His hair was a light auburn, his beard mostly unshaven, and his hands of a singular delicacy and whiteness, owing, I dare say, as much to the soft and easy nature of his employment as to his infirm health. In everything else he was as sensible, sober, and rational as any other man. But on the topic of fairies, the man's mania was peculiarly strong and immovable. Indeed, I remember that the expression of his eyes was singularly wild and hollow, and his long, narrow temples sallow and emaciated. Now this man did not lead an unhappy life, nor did the malady he labored under seem to be productive of either pain or terror to him, although one might be apt to imagine otherwise. On the contrary, he and the fairies maintained the most friendly intimacy, and their dialogues, which I fear were woefully one-sided, must have been a source of great pleasure to him, for they were conducted with much mirth and laughter, on his part at least. "Well, Frank, when did you see the fairies?" "Shh! There's 24 of them in the shop, the weaving shop, this very minute. There's a little old fellow sitting on top of the sleighs, and all to be rocked while I'm a-weaving. The sorrel's in them, but they're the greatest little scammers alive, so they are. So there's another of them at my dressing noggin. Go out of that, you little shinnigan, or bad cess to me if you don't, but I'll leave you a mark. Oh, cut, you thief, you!" "Frank, aren't you afeard of them?" "Is it me? Or what would I be afeard of them for? Sure they have no power over me." "And why haven't they, Frank?" "Because I was baptized against them." "What do you mean by that?" "Why, the priest that christened me was told by my father to put in a proper prayer against the fairies, and a priest can't refuse it when he's asked, and he did so. Begorra, it's well for me that he did. Let the tallow alone, you little glutton. See, there's a weeny little thief over there a-atin' my tallow." "Because, you see, it was their intention to make me king of the fairies." "Is it possible?" "Devil a lie in it. Sure, you may ask 'em, and they'll tell you." "What size are they, Frank?" "Oh, little wee fellows with green coats and the birdiest little shoes you ever have seen. There's 2 of them, both old acquaintances of mine, running along the yarn beam. That old fellow with the bob wig is called Jim Jam, and the other chap with the 3-cocked hat is called Nicky Nick. Nicky plays the pipes. Nicky, give us a tune, or I'll malavogo you. Come on now, low or near shore. Whist now, listen." The poor fellow, though weaving as fast as he could all the time, yet bestowed every possible mark of attention to the music, and seemed to enjoy it as much as if it had been real. But who can tell whether that which we look upon as a privation may not after all be a fountain of increased happiness, greater perhaps than any which we ourselves enjoy? I forget who the poet is who says, "Mysterious are thy laws, the vision's finer than the view. Her landscape nature never drew so fair as fancy draws." Many a time, when a mere child, not more than 6 or 7 years of age, have I gone as far as Frank's weaving shop, in order, with a heart divided between curiosity and fear, to listen to his conversation with the good people. From morning to night his tongue was going almost incessantly as his shuttle, and it was well known that at night, whenever he awoke out of his sleep, The first thing he did was to put out his hand and push them, as it were, off his bed. "Go out of this, you thieves, go! Go out of this now, and let me alone. Nicky, is this any time to be playing the pipes, and me who wants to sleep? Go off now. Troth, if yez do, you'll see what I'll give yez tomorrow. Sure, I'll be making new dressings, and if yez behave decently, maybe I'll lave yez some scraping of the pot. There now. Oh, poor things. They're decent creature. Sure, they're all gone, barring poor Redcap. He doesn't like to lave me." And then the harmless monomaniac would fall back into what we trust was an innocent slumber. About this time, there was said to have occurred a very remarkable circumstance which gave poor Frank a vast deal of importance among the neighbors. A man named Frank Thomas, the same in whose house Mickey Mulroy held the first dance at which I ever saw him, as detailed in a former sketch. This man, I says, has a child sick, but of what complaint I cannot remember, nor is it of any importance. One of the gables of Thomas's house was built against, or rather into, a forth or a rath called Towny, or properly Tonnog Forth. It was said to be haunted by the fairies, and what gave it character peculiarly wide in my eyes was that there were on the southern side of it 2 or 3 little green mounds, which were said to be the graves of unchristened children, or which it was considered dangerous and unlucky to pass. At all events, the season was midsummer, and one evening about dusk, during the illness of the child, the noise of a handsaw was heard upon the Forth. This was considered rather strange, and after a little time, a few of those who were assembled at Frank Thomas's went to see who it could be that was a sawin' in such a place, or what they could be a sawin' at so late an hour. For everyone knew that nobody in the whole country about them would dare cut down the few white thorns that grew upon the Forth. On going to examine, however, judge of their surprise when, after surrounding and searching the whole place, they could discover no trace of either saw or sawyer. In fact, with the exception of themselves, there was no one, either natural or supernatural. Then they returned to the house, and had scarcely sat down, when it was heard again within 10 yards of them. Another examination of the premises took place, but with equal success. Now, however, while standing on the Forth, they heard the sawing in a little hollow, about 150 yards below them, which was completely exposed to their view, but they could see nobody. A party of them immediately went down to ascertain, if possible, what the singular noise and invisible labor could mean. But on arriving at the spot, they heard the sawing, to which they now added hammering, and the driving of nails upon the Forth above, whilst those who stood on the Forth continued to hear it in the hollow. On comparing notes, they resolved to send down to Billy Nelson's for Frank Martin, a distance of only about 80 or 90 yards. He was soon on the spot, and without a moment's hesitation he solved the enigma. "'Tis the fairies," he said. "I see them, and busy crathurs they are." "What are they sawing, Frank?" "They're making a child's coffin," he replied. "They have the body already made, and they're now nailing the lid together." That night the child died. Story goes that on the second evening after, the carpenter who was called upon to make the coffin brought a table out from Thomas's house to the Forth as a temporary bench, and it is said the sawing and hammering necessary for the completion of his task were precisely the same which had been heard the evening but one before. Neither more nor less. I remember the death of the child myself and the making of its coffin. but I think the story of the supernatural carpenter was not heard in the village for some months after its interment. Frank had every appearance of a hypochondriac about him. At the time I saw him, he might be about 34 years of age, but I do not think, from the debility of his frame and infirm health, that he has been alive for several years. He was an object of considerable interest and curiosity, and often have I been present when he was pointed out to strangers as the man that could see the good people.